Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lisa with Lisa Capen Quilts, and today we are going to jump right in and share lots of information. We are going to be converting text in Inkscape to an SVG file and then importing that into Embrilliance. Today I'm working with Stitch Artist Level 2. And we are going to create two files. We are going to create a cutting file for my brother's scan and cut, an FCM file, and we are going to create an EXP file, which is the file extension that my Bernina embroidery machine uses to stitch out embroidery. So welcome to my channel. I've had lots of requests for Inkscape tutorials and digitizing embroidery tutorials. And so this is the first time I'm recording a video much like this. And so be patient with me. I think we're going to work through the kinks together. If I mess up, we're just going to keep on going because I've a lot of information to cram into this video. Now, if you've never heard of Inkscape, it is a free vectorizing software that you can find on the internet. And you can also Google Embrilliance if you are looking for a digitizing software for your embroidery machine. Now, these won't be full tutorials on Inkscape or Embrilliance. Today we are focusing on converting text, our fonts, into SVGs, FCMs, and EXPs. So there's so much I could show you about Inkscape, but I suggest doing a search in YouTube on Inkscape if you'd like to learn other things, and same with Embrilliance. So we're going to jump right in. If you have any questions, jump down to the comment section. I will try to help you the best that I can. And so here is the reason we're making this video today. I'm working on a quilt. It's a t-shirt quilt, and there will be 3 blocks with some names in them. And so what I would like to do is create an applique file that my brother's scan and cut will cut the letters out for me in the fabric, and then my embroidery machine will stitch the applique for me. So that is my goal in this video. We're going to create one of the blocks together, and we're going to start from the very beginning and work through saving the embroidery design. Now, if you'd like to see me actually stitch these out, I will have a different video. You can check that out when I upload that video. And today is just a tutorial on how we get to that part. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to minimize this. Y'all be patient with me. I'm here on my desktop. The very first thing I want to do is open up Inkscape. We're going to start a new document. And let's open this up full screen. Now, the very first thing you'll notice on the default when you open Inkscape is you have this little box here. This is your page. Now, I like to think of Inkscape as a canvas that we can paint on. And I don't want a pre-designated space. So I like to, very first thing is to go up to File and Document Properties. And we're going to get rid of this little box because I think it is distracting for this project. So right under Border, we're going to deselect Show Border, and you can see our box has disappeared temporarily. We can close that, and now we have a blank canvas to work with. So what I like to do when I'm designing a quilt block is let's go ahead and draw our quilt block out on the screen. Over on the left, we have Create Rectangles and Squares. I'm going to click on that and then come over into our canvas space, and I'm going to draw any size shape just like this. Now, when it's selected, you'll see the little arrows around it. You can come up to this top bar, and the very first thing I like to do is change this from pixels to inches. Now, we're going to pretend that this is my quilt block, it is going to finish at 18 inches wide. So we're going to change that. And it's also going to finish at 6 inches tall. Now keep in mind, when I cut out the material for this block, I'll be cutting it at 18.5 inches and 6.5 inches to allow for my seam allowances. But I want to see what the finished block will look like. And so that's what we're working with in this video. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Not that much. Here is our quilt block. Now we're going to fill up this quilt block with a name. So let's use one of the names that is going into our quilt, and we'll come to this left toolbar and select Create Text. We're going to click anywhere and we can type the name. Now it typed out small. Let's just make this bigger so that we can see what we are working with. Now at this stage, if you were to save this, you could save it as a PDF, you could save it as a JPEG, an MP, BMP, all kinds of different ways you could save it. However, text objects, your text will not save as an SVG until we go through the steps that I'm going to show you in today's video. Now before we do that, let's manipulate the text because we can change the font. Let's see, let's find a font that would look really great in this quilt. I don't like that one. Let's see. And I might end up coming back and changing this, but for video purposes, let's use, no, not that one. Oh, find one, Lisa. There, let's use that one for our video purposes. Now with the text selected, we can do all kinds of things to manipulate this, and I would really like my letters to be closer together. I do not like this negative space in between my letters, and so up at this top toolbar, you'll see spacing between letters. We can decrease that. Just like you see. We're going to bring those letters in closer. There, I think I like that spacing. And now we are going to increase the size of our name to fill in a good majority of this quilt block. I'm holding down the control button and just tapping on one of the corner arrows right here, and that will resize our name and keep it all proportionate together. Now I think that fills in the quilt block quite nicely. Sometimes I like to open up right on this right toolbar, the Align and Distribute, and if you have your text selected, we can also shift and select our quilt block, and we can align everything right in the center, and it will show us exactly, if we centered the name in our quilt block, what that will look like. Now, I think that looks pretty good. So let's close that. We are ready to convert this into an SVG. So with text, there's one more thing we have to do. Let's go ahead and select our name. We're going to come up to this top toolbar and we are going to go under Path, and we are going to select Object to Path. Now it looks like nothing has happened. However, if we go to our nodes selector, we can see, let's zoom in a little bit, that now if we select the M, there are nodes. These nodes tell the cutting machine exactly where to go. It's like a road map of sorts. So now we have our nodes. which means we can save our name as an SVG. Let's go ahead and get rid of this quilt block. And let's save our SVG file. So we'll go up to File, Save As. Where are we going to save this? Let's put it on the desktop. Let's create a new folder, and we're going to call this Matte Video. We'll go into the Matte Video folder, and we are going to name this file Matte SVG. You can see right below it the extension will be an SVG, so we are ready to save. Now we can go ahead and close Inkscape. Now we are going to open up Embrilliance. This is a new document. The first thing I usually like to do is to go into Preferences and select the hoop size that I'm going to be using for my project. Currently, I have the jumbo hoop, which is a 16 by 8 hoop, and I've rotated it 90 degrees so that it is in the landscape position. So we are ready to go. You can see my hoop right here. Whoa, that's too big. Let's go ahead and import our SVG file that we just created together. Right on this top bar, we are going to select Create. We're going to come over here and select a vector. And now we find where we saved our file, and I know we saved it on the desktop. And we created a file called Matte Video. And there is our Matte SVG. You can see it show up in the preview. We're going to open that up, and there is our file. You can see you can select each object by clicking on it. One thing I want to show you is that when you click on the letter A, let's zoom in a little bit. When we click on the letter A, the inner circle is not showing up. That is a separate object. So after you've brought in your text, the very first thing I like to do is go to the Objects box and open up all of the objects. And just like I was showing you, it is treating our letter A and the center shape of our letter A as two separate objects. We want to combine that and make that into one complete shape. So I'm going to select the outline, and I'm going to select the inside shape. We'll come over to our letter A, and we are going to right click and combine with whole. Now you'll see everything is selected. Our nodes are showing up inside our letter A, and when we come back to the objects menu, we now have a letter A with the whole combined. So now we're ready to go ahead and start digitizing this SVG. We are going to first convert our SVG into a running stitch, and this will be our position stitch that we'll stitch out first on our fabric. So let's see, is it better like that or like that? I think maybe like that. Let's go ahead and select, we're in the objects menu, we're going to select all of our letters. All of them are highlighted. We're going to come right up here to our toolbox menu, and we are going to turn this into a running stitch. Now there's all different kinds of settings that you can save. You can change the length, you can change the type. We just want a single stitch. We're just stitching out a simple placement for our applique to be. You can also tie it entry and tie it exit. Now you'll see that we have these long running jump stitches. The very first thing I like to do before we continue on is I'm going to change our jump stitches so that they're not as long and they're a little bit more organized. So let's select our letter M and let's bring, whoops, not that. See this green and red bow tie arrow? We're going to move the red one down here to the bottom. That is where our running stitch will stop. Next, we're going to select our A and we're going to change. Actually, let's change. I don't know if it's going to let me change. Nope. Okay, so we're going to have this running stitch because we have this center object. We will change the start to right there. Now we can move our letter T. We can change the start and move that over close to our letter A. And so now it's not going across our letter. It's just jumping from here to here. And when it stops, it'll stop right here. And you can see that currently it's set up to jump all the way across our letter T. Let's change that and bring the start right there. So now there's this short jump between our letter T's. This is really a little bit confusing because it's going to first stitch out the inner part of the A and then it will move down to the outline of the A. So we have that jump stitch to deal with. So now that we've organized all of our jump stitches and modified those to a better organized and more economical jump stitch, we're ready to name this our position stitch and save our FCM. So let's go back over to our objects menu. We are going to select all of the letters and we're going to come down to the properties box right below it and select the color. We are going to click on the color box, and of course you could change this to all different colors. Let's see, for this video, let's do red, although that didn't really change it. What I really want you to focus on is at the top of this box, you'll see color and applique. Let's choose applique. And we are going to call this our applique position. Now, when we do that, a whole other set of options show up, and I want you to focus on this cutting option because now we are going to save this as our FCM file for our Brother Scan and Cut. Now, when we do that, we want to increase the size of our fabric letters so that when we adhere them to our fabric in the hoop, the next tack down stitch will actually secure the fabric in place. So that means we are going to inflate the size of our cutting file. Let's choose 2 millimeters. And we are going to save all. Now you'll see the selection is saving as an FCM, which you can work with in your Brother Canvas workspace. We are going to call this the matte cutting file and save. So there is our applique position right here, and you'll see that it's changed the name of these letters to applique position. So we have that step done. We've saved as an FCM and we are ready to finish our embroidery design. So let's come over into our hoop and we're going to hover over the name since we have them all selected, and we are going to right click and hit copy. We will right click again and we will hit paste. Now what it's done is it's pasted an exact copy right over top of our applique position. So let's go in and let's change this to applique material, and that really just means it's our tack down stitch. So at this point in the embroidery, we have cut out the letters, we've fused them over top of the position stitch. We are returning the hoop back to the machine, and now it's going to stitch the tack down and secure all of our letters in place. And let's change this color while we're here so that the machine will stop in between the position stitch and the tack down stitch. So you notice the position stitch is all red. When it's stopped with this last letter T, it's going to stop because we've assigned the next phase of our embroidery a different color. So we have our tack down stitch in yellow, and so the very last thing we're going to do is we are going to copy this again, paste it again, and you'll see we have one more set of letters. So let's go in first while they're all selected and let's change the color. That will tell our machine to stop stitching after the tack down and that we are doing something totally different. So with all of them selected, we've changed the color to red. And now I would like to do a satin stitch around all of my letters. Pardon me, my throat is really, I'm losing my voice. We're going to go up to the top, we're going to select satin border. And you can see, just like that, we've changed it from a running stitch to a satin stitch. Now there's all different kinds of settings that you could change. You could change the type of satin stitch. I just like the regular satin stitch. We could add a tie at entry and tie at exit. We could adjust the width. Let's change that to a 4 and see what that looks like. That kind of looks nice. We could also change the density, which I usually like to bring mine up to start with, maybe like a 5.1. Let's take a look at those stitches. Let's try. Oh no, that's a little bit too loose. I think that looks really nice. And all of these settings are going to depend on the type of embroidery thread that you are using. So keep that in mind, that you might have to change all of those settings according to your needle size and your thread type. So just for video purposes, we're going to keep it right where we are now. So at this point, we have, well, we have our applique position, our tack down stitch, and our satin border. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this is going to look like when it stitches out. We can go to the stitch simulator and we can hit play. So what it's going to do is it's going to show us the position stitch. I'm going to speed this up so we're not here forever. Then our tack down stitch. And then it will start with our satin stitch. I'm going to speed that up as fast as it will go. I actually think it's kind of fun to watch it do this. So now we're stitching out our last letter. And everything looks really good. So you know what? Let's go back to Create Design. We are ready to save this as our stitch file. So we're going to go up to File. I like to save as Stitch and Working just in case there's something I need to change. I can come back and change it. We are in the Matte Video folder, and I can call this Matte Stitching File. Mine will save as an EXP for Benina. Yours might be different. There's all kinds of extension types that you can save as. And just like that, we have saved our applique. So I've showed you creating the SVG, converting the SVG into an FCM for our Brother Scan and Cut, and then the embroidery. We've created a position stitch, a tack down stitch, and a satin border. Our machine will stop in between each one so we can work with our hoop and all of our fabric letters. And I think that's everything I wanted to show you. So let's come back here. Ta-da! I'm really hoping that that all made a lot of sense. And I'm hoping that I did not confuse you. Again, at any point, just pause the video and take some notes because that was a lot of information to cram into this video. Now, I am off to create my other two names, and then I'm going to be doing some embroidery, and we are going to move on with this t-shirt quilt that I'm working on. If you would like to see that t-shirt quilt, you can check out my channel, Lisa Capen Quilts. I'm doing a whole series. It's really like a vlog series, and I'm making this quilt and bringing you along from start to finish. And we have done, let's see, 4 videos so far. And so today I'll be shooting video number 5, and we will be stitching out these letters together. So if you want to check that out, check out my channel. And when I upload that video, it will be there. This video might show up before that video does. Okay, I'm off to finish creating the rest of my designs and go to work. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.